Hey, what's going on, guys? So we're going to be going over the trades for February 18th. So today was basically consisting of just some smaller time frame analysis and some intraday trading, as well as a PANW entry. So PANW was the long, and then I had two shorts, that being TSM and NVDA. All three wins today. Really, really nice execution, really well planned trading here. And we're going to go over the PANW chart first. So with this chart, essentially what this was here, guys, was it was basically a path of least resistance off of all of this previous consolidation, right? And if you guys go to the weekly chart now, you're going to be able to see how this was a previous consolidation that was essentially failing to break and base the old weekly resistance, and then obviously displace off of that range and see new highs and see a really nice bull trend for the upside into new all-time highs, right? And instead, what we got was we got a lot of weekly highs built around this area, and then we got one smaller time frame UTAD for like a smaller time frame redistribution, and it recorrected us all the way lower into where we had a previous consolidation throughout here. This was also kind of like our area of like a big pivotal area on the weekly chart as well, and it was basically just a weekly higher low when you zoom out. Obviously, you can use some sort of like trend line idea about this area on the chart here, but basically just an identified daily slash weekly higher low, right? And then what happened was we pulled back into the previous range from the upside. We got a proper amount of digestion and kind of consolidated off of this area. Found another higher low once again into the report as we pushed back into the previous highs. Now on the report is kind of what told me that this thing was pretty much ready to launch past these highs, is because we have a lot of consolidation on this previous range, right? And then what we did was we marked down into the earnings report. If we go into the hourly chart, you guys can see on this hourly chart how we had a big time bull gap over here that extended all the way down into 187.71. If I turn off the if I turn off the extended hours trading, you could see how this was a bigger bull gap that was still sitting here, right? And the earnings actually marked that down, right? And it marked it down into the gap, and then we consolidated into the open and had a really nice red to green intraday recovery on the session here. However, we just didn't really close the entirety of the gap, right? So that was your top earnings gap up there at 201.88. And if you guys take a look at the daily or the weekly, what this weekly chart did was it pivoted and closed above these relative weekly equal highs that were sitting around here at 197.74. It was basically like a big hourly resistance, now potentially turning a support after the reclaim back above on the earnings candle. So then what we get was you come into today, that was an area of focus that I had in mind for executing on PANW, was right around this area. And as you guys can see, we basically got a pop, we filled the gap, we pushed onto it, and then we based on top with like a 15-minute flag look, and then it obviously rallied into the close into the new highs. So you need to trade some time here, and you need to be able to obviously be able to accept the fact that this isn't going to be a picture perfect trade, but the risk reward is there, right? And the execution range would be sub 200 with profit targets in mind of all the way up into 205, right? It's at least a $5 reward at the ever so slightest area. I actually took a lot of profits on this today, so um, probably should not have, if you want me to be completely honest with you. But yeah, just a really nice gap sweep, and then a really nice close above this big weekly level, as well as just a really nice strong candle closure right off of the EMAs as well in the daily chart. So that's PANW. It kind of reminds me similar to like Crowd, whenever Crowd was actually consolidating beneath these previous highs after filling all of these gaps, and then it got its shakeout down here on this little tiny wick, and then eventually what happened was we pushed all the way back up into the resistance, formulated some inside bars, and got a really nice continuation in the trend here. So these are really strong relative leaders in comparison to the rest of the market as we lead into this new year, right? You have Net, you have some of these other names that have been on absolutely monstrous runs like Snow. So PANW was really fitting the criteria that I needed. Now we'll go over into TSM here real quick. Essentially with TSM here, guys, we had news that was at the bottom of this low, right? And we know that this chart has been distributive. I don't even really want to go over that because I already have in several other videos if you check the Discord channels here. But this was a fantastic trade opportunity off of basically just risking the previous day high. So essentially what this was just I was looking at a draw into basically our bar by bar imbalance candle that we talk about here on the hourly chart. This was a big time imbalance candle. Obviously everything got a little bit exhausted into the Friday close, and that was what essentially filled this gap that was remaining unfilled over here at 206-ish. And then basically into today, what we saw was relative weakness off of the open. And then what I did was I shorted it above with risk above the opening print right off of this. Okay, so I was either going to risk the opening print or I was going to risk the highs and then take a little bit further out expiration. But I figured the short side swing wasn't really ready yet. So basically all I did here was catch the lower high, risk just about 204.50 to 205. This ended up bleeding all the way down into 250. So this is about a $4 fade. So essentially about a $2 pullback on the underlying with about a risk of about I would say 0.5%, right? So we're looking at like a 3R trade. It's OPEX week, right? Keep in mind, volume is very low within the indices, so things got to be shorter time frame, easier scalps here for the time being, or just loading up the dips on further expiration swing trades here. But that's what I plan to do, except for the short side with TSM here relatively soon. If we could get another pop and start seeing that bid fizzle out as we create another LPSY daily candle somewhere throughout this whole entire range of redistribution here on the daily chart. So that was TSM. We'll go over to NVIDIA now. Very similar thing here, just really clean execution points here on the daily chart. I've already talked about the schematic here as well on the NVIDIA distribution. However, we never really got an accumulative looking low, and we never had subsequent to the really big distribution footprint here on January 27th with some of the biggest volume that we've actually ever seen traded within NVIDIA throughout the last, I would say, almost half of a year, right? So that's a very notable area on the chart to take very, very clear note of, right? And then we filled some gaps beneath us that led us into the February OPEX window where flows kind of took over, and the short opportunity once again just never really came to us, just through those strong flows, just through this thing obviously reclaiming the daily support and obviously forcing shorts underwater for the time being over here. And we've basically just been seeing this gappy, easy, effortless leg back to the upside because of that OPEX window and because of this previous support being reclaimed, because of this previous resistance base on the SR flip potential being based, obviously resulting in shorts being underwater. However, we just filled the deep seek gap today up into this level here at 142.62, right? So I was kind of using this level, and in the higher time frame, June swing high level also is kind of like a area of risk tolerance. That's also right around that opening print, right? So the smaller time frame levels being like the opening print, you have your wick, and then you have the gap fill all the way up here, and it extended slightly above. When we go into the daily, I alerted this one. It was a really nice easy risk off of 142.50, and then eventually a target in mind of just all the way down to basically the bottom end of the overnight gap. Like I said, no promises of continuation just yet. It's a short week, holiday week with OPEX as well, so volume is also really low, and there's really no clear sign and crazy amount of volume coming into this name just yet, right? There wasn't for the upside, so I'm not saying there has to be a forceful amount of volume for this to be a continuation type of trade, and I will be looking to short this one again, but just shorter term base hits here for the time being. I don't really want to have a lot of risk associated with these trades here. And then what I did was I reshorted this one here on lower highs beneath 140, 76, just because I saw some bids spoofing in the tape. I saw a 70,000 lot being spoofed and pulled off of the order book on the bid side. So that's what's going to result in me watching this one further for the short side here. We'll see how price action plays out and see how the tape behaves as we have now filled a gap. But yeah, no true strong seller trend here and a big change of hands to really result in me being willing to take a trade like this overnight. So yeah, with that being said, that is the trades for today. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me.